Hey guys, how's it going? It's me, Josh Halter, owner and founder of The Bio Dude. Hope you guys are doing well. Today I have a really exciting video, and I first want to start off with saying thank you guys for your support. I really appreciate it. You can come visit my store, The Bio Dude Houston, here Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Check us out, Facebook, Instagram, subscribe, YouTube, all that good stuff. So I have a really fun thing that I'm doing. I'm going to show you guys how to put together your green tree frog bioactive kit that I sell on my website. Now on my website it does include the resurrection fern branches, so as of right now I'm not carrying those, so I just made a few substitutions as far as wood's concerned, but this gives you a general idea of kind of how I'm going to set them up. This would also be suitable for North American gray tree frog as well. And the best part about this terrarium is I'm going to be raffling it off here at the Bio Dude Houston. So for the next month or so, whenever you come in, if you leave us a review on Google, you get an entry. If you leave a review on a product, you get an entry. You come in here and for every sale, you get an entry. Whenever you check in here on Facebook, here at the point of sale, you get an entry. So there's multiple ways that you can get in, and you'll win this entire setup, plus all the stuff I'm putting in with it, pretty much free. And you can see my little babies down there are doing what they like to do here at the Bio Dude. That's my Irish Wolfhound Padfoot, and then you can see Nunu on the top. So we're just gonna let them rock and roll for a little bit. So first what I want to show you guys is I have an Exoterra 12 by 12 by 18 in front of me. Now this is going to be suitable for up to 2 green tree frogs or 2 gray tree frogs. Now these tree frogs are a very active species. They are nocturnal. However, during the day, when the sun is at its midpoint, you will see them out basking on the top of the leaves, getting in that UVB, getting in that heat. During that other point in time, what you'll commonly see them is they will hang out underneath the leaves, protecting themselves from the heat or from the sun whenever there are, or protection just in general from predators when it's time of them for the day to, to do your thing. So I do have a, and he jumped, there he goes, on the camera. Great work, Josh. So I got him right here. So I'm actually gonna hold him in the terrarium just to make, so that way we can see. Now, super active species. So like I discussed in my one video, if you are gonna purchase some green or gray tree frogs, you always wanna make sure you test them for the chytrid fungus before you put them in their permanent enclosure. Obviously all my frogs have tested clean, so I have no problem with putting him in here, even though this is gonna be raffled off for, one of these guys or like a green anole. What I love about them is they do have a really neat little call that is pretty audible. And you can get really, they do display a lot of unique behaviors, come breeding season. A lot of times the males will get on the leaf like this and they'll shake the leaf to try, who can shake the leaf the hardest, to try and bring the girls. They can reach a moderate size, and they do produce very large clutches. And the tadpoles, like a lot of other amphibians, they do eat mainly plant-based, as well as a little bit of protein within there as well by eating dead or decaying animals. Their space as far as evolution from tadpole to baby tree frog, I think it's 90 days. Don't quote me on that though. But I just really want you guys to get a look at this. Just because these are cheaper frogs, they shouldn't be treated, sorry about that, they shouldn't be treated, any differently as far as like some of your other frogs. They're very active, as you can clearly see. They do extremely well in a captive environment. Now they do like to have some UVB, and they do like to have heat, and I'm gonna go over that with you guys. But the first, calm it down. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take him, I'm gonna close this up, and I'm actually gonna put him right back over here. And I'm just gonna let him chill since he decided to jump so far. Hey, calm it down. Okay, so I had my Exoterra 12 by 12 by 18. So the first thing that I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be starting with my drainage layer, which is the Hydro Grow, okay? So what I'm gonna do is I'm only gonna need to use about 70% of this bag, so I am gonna have some left over. And what I'm gonna do is I'm first gonna dump the drainage layer into the enclosure. So let me get these opened. So that way you guys don't get any glare. Okay. And And then I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna dump it. Now, one thing I love about the Hydro Grow is multiple reasons. It is clay calcium based, just like your Hydro Balls are. However, it aerates just as efficiently as the Hydro Balls do, even though they're a lot smaller pieces. They're porous, they're heat treated. They're not near as dusty as, you know, some of your other types of drainage layers, and it creates an even surface. Now, when I say, Josh, why is an even surface important? I like utilizing an even surface because, to be honest, you don't need a screen protector. If the top layer is creating a nice, flat, even surface, that's on such a tiny level. Whereas if you're using Hydro Balls, you get a lot of your big pockets and then the top goes like this. So not that there's anything wrong with clay balls, they do work, but I have seen that water that sits in that drainage layer in the clay balls, because there's so much more space, I've seen that water stagnate and get real smelly and slowly, you know, poison the soil. Again, I'm not saying that's gonna happen, I've just seen that before. So what I am gonna do is, just for the hobby standard, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna put in the screen right at the top, okay? Easy peasy. So now, since the green tree frogs like to have humidity spikes throughout the day, so we're thinking, you know, North America, Florida to Texas, even a little bit more south, you might find these guys, okay? So so the reason I'm using the fauna is because it's gonna maintain that humidity that they need to right around 40 to 50%. And then when the substrate gets misted, with how well the fauna retains but drains, it's gonna create those humidity spikes throughout the day. So you're gonna have a spike in humidity for a few minutes, it's gonna go down. A spike in humidity is gonna go down. That helps create those different microclimates that your frogs need, which again, it does make a huge difference for their well-being when you're able to provide them options. I can't stress that enough, like I do in all my other videos. Giving your reptiles and amphibians as many different options as possible especially for hydration, is imperative. So this is how I wet the soil. I just dump the bag in and I just move it around right like that. It makes it really easy, not a lot of mess and cleanup, and as you know, everything gets nice and saturated. And even if it oversaturates a little bit, it's just gonna dry out, not like your pure coconut coir-based products, because of how effective it aerates. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna dump it. Okay. Then I'm gonna take the substrate, I'm gonna go right like this. And you guys can even see when it's wet how clumpy it is. Super clumpy. And that's exactly how it's supposed to drain. So these big clumps retain a lot of moisture, and they just emit moisture when you want it to, while at the same time specifically draining. Okay. So within this, now we have our initial base. Now what it's time to do is add in the fuel. Well, not necessarily the fuel, but the stuff we're going to drive in the other part of the car, essentially. You guys know my analogy. Think of the substrate as the car, with the biodegradables as the fuel that drives the car. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put in my 6 quarts of my BioShot. Now my BioShot has archaea bacteria, as well as different mycorrhizal fungi and other fungal processes that break down organic matter, turning them into nutrients, essentially jump-starting your bioactivity via organic processes, i.e. helping to break down your leaf litter, your nut pods, your shed, and your feces. The next thing that I am going to add in, I am going to put in some isopods. Now, I am going to put in some dwarf white isopods into this setup. Now, dwarf white isopods are mainly going to be in the substrate. You're not really going to see them. I'm sure a lot of you guys are asking, BioDude, this is coconut fiber in your isopod culture. What are you doing? Yet again, I just want to let you guys know that I get some of my isopods. I get them from TC Insects. So you guys remember Tommy? He was in my Panther chameleon video, and he helps take some of that stress off my shoulders by helping provide me some of the extra bugs that I need for my point of sale here at the BioDude Houston. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this culture and I'm going to dump the entire thing in there, right like that. And then I'm going to just take this moss here. Here we go. Okay. So first we got into BioShot. That's driving all your microbiological processes. Then we dumped in the isopods, which are going to help break down that organic matter even further and help aerate your soil. Next is going to be adding in the Springtails. So, as you guys can see, that's what a typical springtail culture from me looks like. So what I'm going to do is, you guys saw my quarantine video. I dumped a whole springtail culture in here. So not only am I going to use this AAA sphagnum moss for this terrarium, because it's new, I'm also going to use the springtails that are in this demonstrated quarantine tub for this build. So your general rule of thumb is you want your spag moss to be wet but not dripping when you first put it in. So right like this. If it's dripping a little bit, that's fine. Just make sure it's thoroughly mixed up with your substrate. I'm going to take my spag moss, and then I'm going to take my springtails, I'm going to dump them in here. Sorry about that noise there. While there may be a very few springtails remnant here, I think the majority of them are going to be in here safe and sound. As you can see, I'm doing a nice generous top layer here with the sphagnum moss. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start mixing. Now this is really important because as your AAA sphagnum moss breaks down, the springtails and isopods will also help with that. It creates microbial hotspots in your terrarium, meaning that as these break down, they're just emitting nutrition and emitting nutrition. Again, makes it a lot easier for y'all. A setup like this would also be, you know, really beneficial for like a green anole or brown anole, for those who were asking. And then, of course, we have some leaf litter. So we do have some leaf litter right here. And this is some oak. This is some of the larger oak leaf litter. So I am essentially, let me get this. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and get some leaf litter added here onto the top. Okay. So again, I'm not using a bunch, but I am going to make sure that these leaves get thoroughly mixed in. Now, it's very important that we do mix the leaves in because, just like I stated, microbial hotspots. There we go. Now we got a nice even leaf litter distribution. You will have to replace the leaves every so often as it breaks down. That just means you have an efficient, healthy system, you know, and that's pretty much great. All right, so we have our base layer in here. We have our terra fauna with my hydrogrow drainage layer, with your AAA spag moss and leaf litter, with your cleanup crew plus the BioShot all in here. Now, the next thing we're going to want to do is decorate it. So something that I'm really looking forward to is the different types of wood, because you guys know that's my favorite part about building. So I have some different pieces of ghost wood in here, some spider wood, some Malaysian driftwood, and cork bark. So, and as far as plants go, I have a large alocasia. This plant may eventually have to be pulled out of here because it's going to grow, but in the meantime, it's going to look really nice, and I'm perfectly cool with that. The Calathea rattlesnake plant and a terrace fern. So these tree frogs, remember how I said at the beginning of the video, like to hide underneath the plant during the day if they're not coming out to bask? So when you have a broad-leaved plant like these, it provides that surface area necessary to protect them from the sun. So when you have your terrace fern and things like this is just, I put this in here to try to mimic their natural environment, because you can find ferns very similar to this in that natural biome. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this piece of cork. I really like this. Okay. That had a whole hunk of piece in the thing, and I'm going to put that right there, right like this. Okay. I am then going to take this alocasia, and I'm going to make sure that this is going to be put into the back, because this is going to need a lot. This is going to need the most space and width. So when you're planning your terrariums, it's also really important to make sure you're taking into account how much root space does my plant need? That's always something that, and when you're using a drainage layer, that's always something you need to keep in the back of your mind for plant placement, I guess is kind of what I'm getting at. Got the Alocassia there. All right, I can deal. Then I'm gonna take this, put that right like this. Give me 1 second. And there goes FedEx, that massive diesel truck. Environmentally friendly, I tell you. All right, let's see here. All right, I can deal. So the next most important thing is I'm gonna, I wanna put a water dish in there, but I'm gonna go grab something a little different. So having a slightly deeper source of water for this species is really important because they do like to soak. When you find them on like the ends of the bogs, right before it goes into the shrubland or bamboo forest or things like that, there is always going to be a good amount of water that's in that area. So let me take a look at this rattlesnake plant, the Calathea. All right, yeah, I'll put that right here. Or should I put the terrace here? That's really tough because the water bowl, okay, the water bowl has to go here in the corner. So I'm gonna put this right here. Okay, and then the terrace fern, I'm gonna put right in here, back. Now, I put the terrace fern here over the Calathea because this terrace fern is gonna grow and it's gonna take up this front section here and it's gonna look really nice. This Calathea is gonna kind of just grow upwards with it. So we'll have nice dense leaves here centralized in the middle and the bottom. Okay. So then, what else do I got rocking and rolling here? Let me go get the water bowl. And I'm gonna put that in there so that way I can. Oh, yes, Patty, you. There we go. Okay. Okay. All right. So, a trick that I learned, if you have lizards or frogs that eat crickets or insects, take a small piece of cork bark like this, and put it here into the water bowl. It will completely prevent, or not, should never say completely, but it will help prevent drowning. So if the crickets get into the water, or the roaches get into the water, they'll be able to climb out, and it'll release tannins into the water, which can help balance out the pH. So then we got some different seed pods and other things like that. So let me see if I even want this in here. Come around and look at that. I can deal. Okay. All right. So I like that. This gives it a little bit of a look. And again, if the person who wins this in the raffle decides to use it for like a green anole or something like that, this is a nice alternative basking areas here and here, which I'm going to go into how we're going to provide the basking here in just a moment. And then I got some really small pieces of tubes, which honestly I don't think it needs it. I think this looks great just how it is. So I'm going to take this seed pod right here. So this is a magnolia seed pod. So this would be a seed pod found in North America from a magnolia tree. I'm putting this in here because it will become a microbial hotspot and the bugs will like it. So it'll slowly break down. So I'm just going to put that right there. Excellent. So now let me talk about what's going to come next. So after I'm going to give this tank a really nice misting. First, as far as heating and lighting is concerned, I want to make sure that I can provide both lighting for my plants as well as heat for the frogs. It's not going to be a lot of heat. It's going to be of a hot spot of about 85 to 90 degrees with a cool side of 70. So able to accomplish that, I'm going to be using the ZoomMed Nanodome fixture. And then with that, I am going to be using the Nano LED that's going to go in the left socket for the plants. And then I'm going to be using a 25 watt backing spot bulb as the heat spot. You can interchange this however you want. This tank is small enough that this size LED is going to illuminate it more than enough for the plants that are in here to grow. If you don't want to go this route, you could also use my BioDude Glow and Grow LED. Now, with these animals, I do highly recommend that we utilize UVB. So if it is for a green anole or a green tree frog, I recommend, you know, an Arcadia 6 or Reptile 100 or the Reptisun 5.0. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any of these bulbs in stock right now that are going to fit the top of this enclosure. But what I can tell you is they are ascertainable in T5s and in T8s. But you want to stay away from the CFL UVB bulb as their output is very nominal. So for UVB, I am going to be rocking and rolling one of these. And one of these plus these lights are going to be on during the day. And then at nighttime, they're all going to be turned off. So that way we can have a proper photo period. So we can tell easily the difference between night and day. We are going to be hand misting this enclosure twice a day for about 25 to 35 seconds, or if you have a Mist King Ultimate system, you could easily, you know, have this cage get misted for 1 minute and 30 seconds a day, and that will give you the variable humidity outputs that either one of those species needs. As far as some moss is concerned, you know what? I think I am gonna put a little bit of moss in here. Let's take a look. Oh yeah. All right. I forgot I had some moss. How could I forget? Now, we'll see how this does up here because I don't know where our hotspot's going to be just yet. If I decide to put my hotspot over here, I'm going to move the moss to be over here. Just so that way my followers know. And then I'm going to put this little patch here. And then this, put this right like that. So one thing about moss, just a few things. Moss does not like competition. And the aspect of if you're going to put it somewhere, make sure there isn't a plant directly in the middle of it. It's also very important that you use good water. So spring water, reverse osmosis water. You want to stay away from tap water, essentially is what I'm getting at. So I covered heat, I covered UVB. As far as feeding goes, I will be feeding them crickets. A general rule of thumb is whenever we're messing with these little dudes, you never want to feed them a food item that is bigger than the space in between their eyes. So here's a hard lesson I learned with red-eye tree frogs. The very, very first time that I bred my red eyes back in 2005, I had about 45 babies that morphed out super healthy. My box of 1,000, the week 1 in, they were doing great. My box of crickets came in dead because I lived in Pennsylvania, it was wintertime. From there, I went to my pet store, and the crickets that they had were literally a centimeter past the space in between their eyes as neonatal froglets at that time. After I fed them, the next day, I lost 25% of my babies from esophageal tears from the spurs on the crickets. I was devastated. That was a really hard lesson to learn. So in general, when you're dealing with frogs or when you're dealing with, geckos or anything like that, you always want to look at the space in between their eyes for how large of a food item that they can take. So he can easily take a medium cricket, no problem. So, hey little dude, how are you doing? And one thing I love about them is you can take a look at their bellies. His little fat belly, he's just here chilling. Okay, yeah. So guys, I really hoped you enjoyed my video on the gray or green tree frogs. Where we go? No. I'm not very good at containing said tree frog right now. Look at us going all over the place. But what I can tell you is that I'm really excited to see how this raffle goes. This is what is going to be included. Is the BioDude digital thermometer hygrometer to make sure that we can actually keep track of our humidity and make sure that we're doing okay. As well as, your light and your heat for either, your green tree frog or your anole. Some people might ask me if this would be suitable for a crested gecko, and it would work for a cresty, but you're going to want something bigger if we get, to an adult size. And again, guys, my name's Josh Halter. I'm the owner and founder of the BioDude. I really appreciate everyone's support, and I really appreciate this dude not wanting to cooperate, showing us how active and crazy these little frogs are, because I'm telling you, just because they're cheap does not make them any less of an awesome of a species to work with. I dig it. Thank you so much for the support, guys. The dude abides.